Russell Wilson and Khalil Mack are traded to the AFC West. Jamal Adams is crying in Jets Northwest. And Derek Carr's crying too. It's time for garbage time. Guys, welcome into Garbage Time Fantasy Football tonight. We have a shitload of topics to get to tonight. How are you two doing tonight?
Phenomenal. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have three of us here. I'm excited.
We were going to get a fourth member here, but, the old man's probably falling asleep on the couch as we speak right now. So let's
probably
get straight
had his warm milk, went to bed.
Absolutely, no doubt. Guys, if you like what you hear on Garbage Time Fantasy Football, you can like and subscribe to the show here on YouTube. You can also obviously watch us here on YouTube if you're doing it right now, and listen to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, Tunein, Iheartradio, www.garbagetimeff.com, where you can leave us voicemails and hate mails. And let's very quickly get into the news.
News updates.
So, as I stated earlier, Derek Carr is now shitting his pants in the AFC West. Now that Khalil Mack and Russell Wilson are in the division. Let's start off in our top right corner with JJ. This isn't very fantasy relevant, but it's the offseason, so break down the Khalil Mack trade for us.
It was I personally saw this coming. Obviously got a new regime coming in, new scheme, and a veteran player with a heavy contract. That's just the formula to ship him out of town. So, it works out great for him. He's trying to get a Super Bowl. He goes to the Chargers, who will be able to contend this year while the Bears are rebuilding. And he gets to go play in the same exact scheme he's been in since he's been in Chicago, that Brandon Staley, Vic Fangio defensive scheme. So it makes a lot of sense. And they also took on the contract, which is great for the Bears in the future. Start spending money on weapons for Justin Fields. So I think it's a good trade for both parties and was the right thing to do.
Ryan, what's your thoughts on this trade?
Yeah, like JJ said, it made sense. Honestly, I thought they would get more for him. Like JJ said, they clear up, I think, about $6 million in cap this year, but then like $28 million in 2023. But I think when they got him, they gave up like 2 first rounds, a third, a sixth, a second, and a traditional fifth. So they definitely gave up a lot to get him 4 years ago.
Yeah, the owner's firstborn.
So I thought they would get more, but I still think it made sense, and it sets them up to be in a really good salary cap situation heading into 2023 for sure.
JJ, there is hope in Bears land, and the Chargers are not fucking around as we are seeing now. That pass rush on that team is going to be absolutely insane with him and a Bosa there. So, boy, is that division stacked. So let's get into the big highlight of this week, which is the Russell Wilson trade. So the breakdown of this trade was it's 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick. Noah Fant is heading with Drew Lock and Shelby Harris to the Seattle Seahawks. So, breaking this down into different categories, what's our thoughts on Russell Wilson's future with Denver first?
Ryan,
he's going to a team with a ton of weapons. During the season, we always talked about how if Aaron Rodgers went there, it'd be a great fit because of all the weapons. It's pretty much the same thing with Russell Wilson. Now he's got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. Their running backs are looking pretty good, even though Melvin Gordon keeps stealing work away from Williams there. But I think it's a great setup. I just wish Fant stayed there because I'm a huge fan of him, and I think if he was still on that offense with Russell Wilson there, it would have been insane. And basically, Seattle just gave up Russell Wilson to get back what they gave up for Jamal Adams.
Yeah, it's nice to hear, I believe, coming from JJ's house that Jamal Adams is throwing his fit over there, throwing stuff around now that he's in a rebuilding team. You brought up an interesting point there, Ryan, about Noah Fant specifically. There's a narrative going out there, and I kind of fed into it off the initial emotion of this trade that his fantasy value may drop. I don't necessarily think that's the case, especially if Drew Lock is the starting quarterback there. I mean, he's already got familiarity with him. He might be a security blanket should he be the starter in Seattle initially. And he's a good tight end there, and they need a starting tight end there. I think Drew Lock's value honestly doesn't drop going from Denver to Seattle. Where we're going to see the drop in value is those Seattle wide receivers. So, guys, what does this do to DK Metcalf's and Tyler Lockett's value?
Obviously, it goes down, right? I mean, there's a lot of trade rumors about both receivers. I don't think it makes a ton of sense for them to trade Metcalf. I have been vocal in the past about how I thought that the Tyler Lockett extension was kind of stupid because they had to pay DK Metcalf, and now they're in the situation where they're probably going to end up dumping Tyler Lockett somewhere. So obviously it hurts him. I don't know how Lockett's going to be. He was very inconsistent in Denver, and I don't think that's the only quarterback Seattle's going to bring in. So I wouldn't be surprised if they took a guy in the first round or wound up with one of the younger guys or free agents. So either way, obviously it's bad news for both of them.
Honestly, I like what you said about that there. I think the best scenario for DK Metcalf would be if Geno Smith re-signed with Seattle, and that's
really sad.
That's real sad when I'm saying your best option is Geno Smith potentially signing there. There's rumors that a certain Texans QB could potentially be looked at should he not be indicted Friday. So there are rumors flying out there. Ryan, what's your thoughts on DK Metcalf and Lockett?
Yeah, so obviously it hurts their value. I'm almost wondering too do you guys think it boosts the value of the running back group? Do you see the Seahawks going even more run heavy now than they did in the past? Do you think it kind of boosts their value a little bit, or do you think it pretty much stays the same?
Honestly, I see it on the same level for the reason that teams are going to stack the box now. Even with more volume, you're going to see that yards per carry go down. They're not going to really have to account for those wide receivers as much. So you'll get an increase in volume, but the production is going to go down, especially with an injury-riddled backfield and one running back coming off a neck injury.
Guys that were there last year may not even play this year for them, so you never know.
Yeah, they've got some work to do back there, that's for sure.
And that, not to mention, Seattle also released Bobby Wagner, one of their star defensive players, so they also took a big hit on that side of the ball as well.
Like I said, it's nice to see Jamal Adams in Jets Northwest. It's everything he ever deserved. So I got Ryan's initial thoughts on Russell Wilson. JJ, I don't really think I got yours. So what's your thoughts on him being in Denver?
Obviously it's awesome for fantasy. I don't know, they got Nathaniel Hackett as their new coach, who obviously ran Green Bay's offense the past couple of years. So that offense was, pretty conservative and slow paced. So I don't know what they're going to run, but I think Sutton and Judy are both in a position to be 1,000-yard receivers. Like you saw in 2020 with Metcalf and Lockett, I think those numbers could be pretty similar. It just boosts everybody, right? You got a Super Bowl winning quarterback that's a perennial Pro Bowler. Pro's pro, throws a great deep ball. So I think he slides right in there and ups all the pass catchers production in Denver for sure.
I think that's pretty interesting, too, for the reason that I think Courtland Sutton may end up being initially his favorite. I think, obviously, Jerry Jeudy's got a higher ceiling than him, but I think he's going to look to establish with the veteran early. Tim Patrick's kind of the wild card here. I really don't know what to make of what he will do in this offense. He could really carve himself out a role now that prominent tight end is gone now, too. We've seen Russell Wilson be talented enough to be able to get the ball and spread it around enough for him to get good fantasy value. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that battle between Jerry Jeudy and Tim Patrick, who really takes over that number 2 role initially. But the place where you're going to really see, I think, the initial value is with Javonte Williams on this team. You now have a quarterback with running ability when you have to count with on the passing game. And should they not bring his mate back there, it's going to be his show, and he can be absolutely great for fantasy football.
I know JJ's ready for Javonte Williams to break out. He bitched about it all season.
Yes, I did. Damn Melvin Gordon. And speaking, just to circle back a little bit, I know you're talking about Sutton as the one, but I don't know. I think Judy has a chance to be the one because if you remember last year, Judy was out, and when he came back, he stole every bit of production from Sutton. So
yep.
And Sutton, another year to recover from the ACL, and usually guys are better the second year after it, but just something to keep an eye on. It'll all depend who Russell clicks with the most.
Yeah, is there any other dynamics of this trade that you guys wanted to break down for fantasy football?
No, I think we covered that. We covered Wilson's impact on Denver's receivers.
Yeah, and how is Drew Lock going to look in that Seattle offense? Is he even going to start there? What was
they bring in?
Was he just a throw in that Denver insisted on him going there? It's not that Seattle asked for him. They're like, no, listen, he's coming with you. We don't care. You've gotten everything you wanted, so you have to take something else.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I don't think Seattle, now that they just acquired those picks and everything, I don't think they're going to go and throw them back out and trade for Garoppolo or anything like that. I think they're going to either bring in a free agent to compete with Locke, or they're going to draft someone early.
What was the name of the individual they brought in from the Packers all them years ago when Russell Wilson was a rookie?
Matt Flynn, right?
Yeah. So this is their version of Matt Flynn before they bring in the rookie to be their next Russell Wilson?
Could be.
Try to run it back again?
Could be.
All right. So with that, let's move on to our next trade of the week. This one's a little bit less prominent on excitement. It's Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders, or Commies, depending on your preference of team. They traded a third-round pick in 2022 and a third-round pick, which could become a second-round pick in 2023 for Carson Wentz, and a second-round pick this year. So what's your guys' initial thoughts on this trade?
I mean, Wentz is probably an upgrade from Taylor Heineke. It's just not exciting, I think everyone's kind of seen Wentz last few years, and he is what he is at this point. He's like a Jay Cutler from a few years ago. He's going to come out, he's going to get some numbers, but when it's all said and done,
so it's about as exciting as the sewage coming out of the Washington football team stadium.
Yeah. Fantasy wise, I mean, I think it's good for McLaurin. Curtis Samuel, who knows? He missed pretty much all last year with injury, but I mean, I think he can get these guys the ball. He got Pittman in the volume and the tight ends there. So
yeah,
I think it helps Terry McLaurin, but other than that, it's not that exciting.
Ryan, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, technically Washington did upgrade their quarterback position, but comes at a very hefty price. He has the 8th highest cap hit in 2022 among quarterbacks. Pretty confident in saying he's not going to be a top 8 quarterback this year. So it's a big price tag to pay. I think it does make the receivers more fantasy relevant, but I don't think it's going to turn into anything great.
As they were saying on the Pat McAfee show, they came up with a nickname for him, Kamikaze Wentz. I think that's the perfect description of what's going to occur here, where every play is going to look like 4th and 20. He's going to be chucking it down to Terry McLaurin. That could be good for fantasy some games where you could use him in Superflex League formats. But listen, he's been injury prone. He hasn't looked the same in 3 or 4 years. I think this fresh start was needed for him again. It's probably one of the best starts I think he could have there. At least the Washington Commanders have some pieces there. As you said, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel is there, Antonio Gibson. They need to get some more stuff there, but there's much worse fits, I think, for Carson Wentz here. So this is the best the Washington Commanders were going to do. So they're going to roll with it. What does this do to the Colts, though? What are they going to look to do at quarterback?
Jimmy G.
I've heard Garoppolo. I've heard a lot of Jordan Love. A lot of rumors that Chris Ballard liked Jordan Love in the pre-draft process a few years ago. So
I think I've heard Marcus Mariota out there too.
Yeah, he's kind of under the radar guy. Like he
is.
He had success. He won a playoff game, and he did a good job backing up Carr with the Raiders. The one start he had, he played very well. So he could end up in Seattle. He could end up with the Colts, but it's there's not many guys left to move around. So
no, what would Jordan Love and Jimmy Garoppolo look in this Colts offense as for fantasy? Impactful, not impactful?
I would say I'm not a Garoppolo guy. I've never sung his praises. I don't think he's that good. I don't think production wise it's a jump with Garoppolo and Wentz. Like I think the numbers would probably be similar. They're going to run Jonathan Taylor. He'll probably throw for 4,000 yards and 20 some touchdowns, but I don't think it puts the Colts over the top, which confuses me that they would trade Wentz, and if Garoppolo's their plan A, I don't think that makes a ton of sense for the Colts. But
it could allude to them actually having a plan A of Jordan Love then, which I think would cost them a few more assets. Another first-round pick, which they don't have this year, so it would have to be ones for the years after that, or a rookie. It's really interesting to see where their mindset is with this, because I didn't see them trading Carson Wentz unless they got a big name, and that big name just doesn't seem to be there for them, especially considering someone who could potentially be indicted Friday is in the division, so there's no way he's going there too. Ryan, what do you think they do ultimately?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be Garoppolo. I think that's where they're going to look. I don't really know if it's the best decision, but also Jordan Love and the few snaps he had, few games, it's not like he looked stellar. So I'm not sure how much they'd really be willing to give up to get him. Jimmy G's not stellar either, but he has won some games. So
yeah, I'll say this about Love. Like, what does it say about him that they're willing to be Aaron Rodgers' bitch and just take all this shit
for the next 4 years?
Quarterback behind him. Like, obviously, the progression of Jordan Love is not going well, because if it was and they were very impressed with what they saw, I think they probably would have moved on from Aaron Rodgers. But instead, they've catered to his every want and need. So,
does this move make you potentially want to try to buy Michael Pittman low in fantasy football formats, especially Dynasty, or even someone like a DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett? Are fantasy owners going to panic after these recent moves?
I've seen a lot of stuff online of people going after DK Metcalf. As far as Pittman, I kind of said, like, I don't think the production is – he was a 1,000-yard receiver last year with Wentz. I don't think he's going to go berserk with Jimmy Garoppolo or whatever guy they come up with this year. So I'm not really chasing him down. As far as Lockett, he's older. So if you're talking Dynasty, Metcalf is probably the one I would go after.
What about you, Ryan? You interested in any of these bastards?
Like JJ said, DK Metcalf Dynasty obviously has value. As far as in just a redraft league, I don't think I want any of it. Just gonna avoid all of it. I think all of those guys would be taken earlier than what I would be willing to do for them. So I'm banking on them being gone by the time I would even get to that point.
Okay. Since this is JJ's favorite topic, we'll let him go into the whiny bitches $200 million contract. So what happened earlier in the week, JJ?
Aaron Rodgers signed it. I guess he hasn't signed it yet, but agreed to terms with the Packers to come back. The alleged deal from the insiders, Rappaport and Schefter, is 4 years, $200 million. But he's disputing that. But as
of course
he's shown in the past, he's a liar. So who knows what the truth is? Either way, is going to get more money than he's worth. So
something close to $50 million a season. And him resigning with the Packers, absolutely nothing changes with his fantasy value. He falls, I think, somewhere between that 6 to 10 range, as he has for the last few years. JJ seems to ponder his head. He doesn't think that's the right range. So what is it, JJ?
I don't know. I think last year I put him at 10 or 11. I think that's
no Bears bias.
Fields will probably outscore him this year.
We'll see. You definitely have to bring in some weapons if you want to see that. But you got time, and free agency is about to start, so we'll see. Speaking of trades, too, Ryan or JJ, did either of you happen to bring up a poll or screen about a little debate that was going on in our league earlier in the week that was pretty fun?
Yeah, so JJ might be able to access the Twitter poll. I think he has the Twitter up, but I can show the trade. We went over it briefly when it was just Joe and I, but I'll share it really quick just for our watchers today to see it.
Okay, Ryan, well, you're bringing that up. JJ, why don't you give us a lowdown of what was going on in our league and what we need to go over here?
Yeah, so Dynasty League, I pitched a trade to Ryan. And it is a rule of thumb in Dynasty Leagues, don't just trade because you're bored, but I happened to be cruising, and the Calvin Ridley news had recently come out. And I thought, yeah, he's not 30 yet. Maybe I can package him with something and get a first-round pick because Ryan has more than one. So looked at my roster. I was deep at running back, and I like Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris is going to be productive for a few years. But I like some of the backs in this year's draft, and I already have a high draft pick in our draft, and I want another one. So maybe I can get two of them. Maybe I can get two of the stud receivers. So I traded Najee Harris and my third-round pick for a first-round pick, Amari Cooper, who's about to be the highest-paid free agent wide receiver. Dallas releases him. And Calvin Ridley, who is probably going to miss all of 22, but he'll be back in 23. He's able to get reinstated next offseason. And there's still the possibility of an appeal where his suspension gets reduced. But either way, I'm a believer that he's going to be back. So I thought the trade was fair, and I caught some flack.
You caught quite a bit of flack from our league. The only thing I don't like about this trade is I don't see Calvin Ridley's $1,500 listed here. So that's a little bit strange. But honestly, so the flack coming from our league was from some league mates who looked at it and who have seen some other trades the past few weeks that we've actually brought up on the show, and they've deemed a few of them as unfair. The idea behind this one was that Najee Harris is a young, healthy back, and I think they're assuming that the centerpiece here would be Calvin Ridley, which he is absolutely not the centerpiece here. It's Amari Cooper, who is potentially going to be a number one wide receiver, and you're potentially bringing in another piece here, which could start for you in this draft. They were saying the draft was weak this year. That's subjective because every draft is subjective. And we also brought this up to a Twitter poll to see what everybody in the heckling fandom thought too. So, JJ, would you like to bring that up, or is that not an option for us?
Let me see if I can get it.
Ryan, what's your thoughts on the trade, obviously being a part of it?
Oh, yeah. So, like I said, like JJ said, he sent me that trade. I have, as you know, I was in the market for a running back. I have Joe Mixon and Antonio Gibson. I was viewing Antonio Gibson a little unreliable last season. So he offered me Najee and a third. Ridley, I'm pretty deep at wide receiver. I got Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Deebo Samuel, Deontay Johnson. So I'm pretty full at wide receiver. So giving up Amari Cooper and Calvin Ridley made sense to me. The first round pick was tough, but
you swallowed it.
Yeah, I think it's a good trade on both sides because Najee, I mean, Big Ben's gone. They're going to be kind of rebuilding that team a little bit, so you don't know what that's going to look like. But he is an RB1. Calvin Ridley, JJ's running that risk with what's he going to look like when he gets back. But Amari, like you said, I think they're viewing Calvin Ridley as the centerpiece of that trade, where that's not the case. Amari Cooper is going to sign a blockbuster deal somewhere where he's undoubtedly going to be the wide receiver 1 on that team, whatever team he goes to. So I really think it's a good trade.
And dynasty owners have to really notice here too. If you look at JJ's roster, which we've brought up a few times too, what his team was really lacking was a true number 1 receiver. So what he was doing here was establishing one, potentially getting another, and he can now get another running back with this pick. He can do a lot of avenues in that first round now that he's got 2 picks here. So I see absolutely nothing wrong with this trade, and the heckling fandom sees absolutely nothing wrong with this trade. JJ, give us a lay down of the poll.
Yeah, so if you're listening to this, we have the poll pulled up on the screen. I put the trade out there, and it's straight yes, no. Only got 39 votes. We got to get our Twitter up this year, but
what's our Twitter?
Our Twitter is garbage_timeff. So check us out. I wasn't as active as I should have been last year. I kind of started halfway through the year, but this year I'll be very active on the Twitter feed. So I'd like to interact with the heckling fandom as much as possible this year. Either way, we did the poll. 64% said the trade was good. 35% or 35.9% said it was bad. So my side obviously won by a hefty margin, 20%. And we have some replies.
Ooh,
now, this gentleman said, bad trade? Yes. Should it be vetoed? No. Obviously, it's going to depend on how you see Najee going forward. Like, he had 1,200 rushing yards. He had plenty of receptions this year. Obviously, that's a lot of production. I watched the games. I watched him run. I just think longevity-wise, there's guys in this year's draft that I can get in the position I put myself in that can maybe outlast him and maybe be in a better situation. So that's part of why I did it. And also, obviously, I had the receiver at home. And then the second response says, nothing worse than a fantasy trade crybaby. I'd have to agree, Gino. But either way, yeah.
And I think some of our league members get confused the difference between a redraft and a snake draft. I mean, a redraft and dynasty. Because they were giving JJ shit for drafting Justin Fields. Like, that's a no-brainer. So, I mean, yeah. It's just you got to think the long game.
But more than happy with a healthy debate because eventually that'll lead to money in your pocket, hopefully.
Absolutely, and I love a good controversy, you know.
Yeah, we seem to get a lot of them in our leagues. All right, next story we'll move on to here now that we're glossing over that topic is the Mike Williams contract. Holy shit, 3 years, $60 million. Is Mike Williams really worth that kind of money to the Chargers? And is this going to reset the wide receiver market for free agency coming up?
I personally think it's too much money for what the Chargers have gotten out of Mike Williams. I don't know that he would have got that in free agency. Like, what team would have paid Mike Williams $20 million a year with his injury track record, his age? I thought it was a very aggressive move by the Chargers. And I'm not sure the guaranteed money on it, but
I believe it was very high, though. A lot of that is guaranteed, which I found very interesting considering they still have Keenan Allen there. I thought they were going to make a move for him, but I thought it was going to be the franchise tag as opposed to such a hefty contract. But obviously, there's no other way to say the Chargers are going for it this year. They just traded for your boy up there, and this contract just shows they want to keep that offense together for years to come and keep Justin Herbert his weapons.
Yeah. I mean, he had 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. So that's great production from a wide receiver too. But
it is, but it was in the Tyler Lockett format where it all came very early and then he faded off in the second half of the year. It was a little scary to watch. So I want to see a little bit more consistency from him next year, especially making this kind of damn money.
This also disappoints me because I had high hopes for Josh Palmer in his second year in LA, and obviously now
That's gone.
he's still settled into that wide receiver 3 spot there. So unless there's an injury, he's probably not going to be as big a part of the offense as I would have liked.
Ryan, does this piss you off? He's not going to be a New England Patriot. What's your thoughts on this?
I mean, New England just doesn't. We don't get those big name receivers. I did think that the contract was high. Like, what'd you say, $20 million a year?
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what Amari Cooper was due to get paid this year. And like Joe said, looking at his game log, like it was a lot of boom bust games. So, I mean, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He had 7 games this season with single digit fantasy points.
Mm-hmm.
So almost half of the fantasy football season, you're looking at a single digit fantasy performance. But I think it's just the Chargers are trying to go all in this year, trying to keep the whole crew together, bring in a few extra pieces, hoping they can make a push to get the trophy.
I agree. Fantasy outputs for him, like I said, are still wide receiver 2. Nothing changes here with him not changing teams. Yeah. JJ's nodding too. Yeah.
Stays the same.
All right, boys.
What
You
was
want to
he
go? What were you saying?
What was he like? Wide receiver 11 last year or something? 15?
In that range.
12. He was
You knew you would come away with it at some point.
wide receiver 12 in PPR.
All right, so boys, would we like to get into the apology next or the franchise tag?
I love a good old apology. I mean, JJ's got to be a pro at him.
I mean, we gotta break up this news a little bit, right? And nothing more than an icebreaker, like an apology owed from the playoffs when the 49ers beat the Cowboys all them weeks ago, right?
Shame on me.
All right, you should have to hit the button yourself then.
Let's find it.
It's been a while. All right, so if you guys have never heard an apology bet before, this one is a long time coming. We take bets with each other on games, fantasy stats, shit like that, and then ultimately the loser's got to read an apology. This one might be a little bit dated, but it's going to be comical for you. So, JJ, lead us off. What you got for us?
All right, just for the listeners, this bet was made in the wild card round of the playoffs. I took the Cowboys to beat the 49ers. Joe took the 49ers, who had that big run in the NFC playoffs. So, yes, like Joe said, some of this stuff is dated. But
appropriate.
All right, to the heckling fandom. Why the fuck am I giving yet another apology tonight? I can tell you why. It's because of the Cowboys. Only would myself, JJ, Aaron Rodgers' #1 fan, consider taking the Cowboys to beat the 49ers against Joe's fantastic NFL expertise. Obviously, we knew the 49ers were going to win, just like how we knew there was no way he was going to lose this bet. Thank you, Dak Prescott, for running for the first down with 14 seconds to go. I forgot that happened. No timeouts. That was really stupid. You deserve to be sent to oblivion. That is the Bears' current roster. Not even you could help a roster like that get into the playoffs. A true heaping pile of trash, just like my opinions during these apology bets. Secondly, how could you forget to hand the ball to the referee to get a final snap? Don't we learn to do that in Pee Wee football? That moment was almost as bad as Justin Fields' performance in the 2021 National Championship against Alabama. A microcosm of what he's going to do for the rest of his Bears career. Jeez. Scramble for his life and complete just half of his passes. Only after 6 or 7 years of denying the inevitable will the Bears finally cut Justin Fields to bring in Jordan Love to save the Bears. A true franchise quarterback. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Speaking of jokes like the Bears, I have another joke for you. What's the difference between Soldier Field and a porcupine? The pricks are on the outside of a porcupine. My God, am I sick of losing to Joe, doing these apology bets and missing Mitch Trubisky. 2022 is not starting off the way I intended, heckling fandom. Yet I strive to be better for you. More apologies on my end are coming in the future. Stay tuned. P.S. Who the fuck almost doesn't accept the free NBA jersey when offered one? JJ was playing that too. I did accept it. It got here. I have it. Thank you,
Had to
Ryan.
bet the frickin' guy to take it.
Ultimately, too, that helped us get the address, which got JJ the toilet bowl trophy, too.
Oh.
Actually, it's a ball sack.
Yeah, it's in the closet.
Yeah, it's all right. You can bring that out in another video.
I'll have to put it in here and display it. I couldn't display that one in the office.
Yeah, no, probably not. All right, so now that icebreaker's over and JJ's finally got that out of his system, I know he's wanted to say that for weeks. Let's talk about the franchise tags. Were you boys surprised at how many tight ends here were actually tagged, like Njoku, Schultz, and Gesicki?
I think the only one that surprised me was Njoku. I don't think I saw that one coming. I think Schultz and Gesicki I kind of saw coming. I think if they went into free agency, they would have gotten a lot of interest and a lot of offers. So it made sense for the teams to franchise tag them. Njoku, I was surprised though.
Ultimately, I think that just fucks his fantasy value now. He could have been a number one somewhere. I don't know if he was going to really rebuild his career necessarily, but he needed an opportunity somewhere else. Austin Hooper's there. He's there. I imagine they're going to try to bring in a receiver, whether that be a rookie or someone else. But I don't like the quarterback that's currently there. And there's rumors of the Browns out there trying to get Derek Carr, which Derek Carr, I'm sure, would love to go to the Browns right now and get out of that damn division. But yeah, I hate the fit of Njoku for fantasy football with the Browns.
Well, in between those three that were franchise tagged, you have Njoku, who got 400 receiving yards compared to Schultz with 800 and Gesicki was 780.
Yeah.
And
8 touchdowns.
Completely different ends of the spectrum, yet all were franchise tagged.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck the Browns are doing.
Going back to the old ways.
Austin Hooper's a top five paid tight end in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And Njoku, you didn't use him right. You barely get him reps catching the football. And now you're going to pay him even more than you're paying Hooper with the amount the tag is. So I don't really know. I guess they're probably maybe they're anticipating losing Jarvis Landry, and they already lost Beckham, so they don't want to lose more pass catchers. So they're allocating more to the tight end. But yeah, I didn't like that. I wanted Njoku to get a fresh start somewhere.
Maybe they're just hoping for a Band-Aid rebuild. They anticipate this year sucking. I don't see the blueprint. They could have had a blueprint. There's not one currently. I don't know. Maybe the Browns will surprise us, but I'm not optimistic about them this year.
No.
Do you see this as do you foresee them trying to move on from Hooper? I don't think that's happening either, right?
No, I don't. I don't think they're going to want to move on from Hooper in a trade or cut him. JJ, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Let me look at his contract. If he frees a lot of cap space, it could. But I don't think they're in a terrible cap situation after dumping Beckham, and especially if they get rid of Landry. So they'll probably keep Hooper.
One of the few tight ends that had less yards than Njoku, Austin Hooper with 345. I mean, so they're two tight ends combined for
less than Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, they're sticking with Hooper. He's carries 11 million in dead cap. He's a 13 million cap hit this year, so he actually is making more than Njoku. Holy cow! Yeah,
what a horrible move on their part.
Browning.
Obviously, I think both are very limited in their fantasy outlook for next year. Was this ultimately the best fit for Dalton Schultz's fantasy outlook, though, him staying with the Cowboys?
Probably because the fact
that
he got what Ryan said, over 800 yards last year, and that's with Lamb, Cooper, Gallup, and Cedric Wilson, and obviously Gallup's not going to start the season. They're talking
two of those guys might be gone.
Cooper will be gone. Cedric Wilson's a free agent, so there's going to be a lot of open targets, and obviously Dak trusts Schultz. He could have a huge year.
Not only that, the tight end behind him, who they originally were going to replace him with, recently got surgery. There was
Blake
so
Jarwin.
he's injured going into next year too. So I think they were almost out of necessity needing to tag him. Initially reported that they weren't going to tag him, but circumstances change, and this is a good opportunity for him to be very successful. I wanted him to be on the Jets, and now we're going to have to go basement bargain shopping at tight end like we do every year. What about Gesicki? Best fit?
I think so. With the coach they have coming in, knows how to use the tight end. I think it'd be good for him. I know towards the end of the season, and I only remember this because I needed Gesicki to get the points. They had their other tight end there. Who was it? Smith or something? I don't even know his name, but I was like, what the hell? But yeah, I think it's a good fit. I think he's got a good coach coming over that knows how to use the tight ends. So I think he'll have another good year.
Okay, and what's your guys' thought on Chris Godwin being tagged by the Tampa Bay Bucks? Is this them wanting to eventually work out a long-term deal with him? Are they just trying to attract a veteran free agent to come there? What's the thought behind this?
Both.
Right.
I say both.
Yeah. Yeah, he just turned 26. Obviously, they drafted him. He's homegrown product. He's been great for them. So, yeah, I think they obviously want to retain him. They got another couple years out of Evans, I think, and bring Godwin back. So, yeah. I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. You just kind of forget, we're talking about Seattle and the Colts, and meanwhile, the Bucs literally have Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, the Saints don't have one either. Pittsburgh's missing a quarterback. True. There's a lot of teams without a quarterback right now. Blaine Gabbert, Kyle Trask.
The number of teams that need a quarterback and what the market actually has. Do you think we'll see any of these rookie quarterbacks coming into this draft, potentially starting?
I think we'll see them overdrafted like we do every draft. They were talking about only potentially one or two of these guys getting taken in the first round. You could look at two of these guys getting drafted in the top 15, maybe three, because teams are going to get desperate. We saw this back in the years when Minnesota drafted that kid from Florida State. I don't even freaking remember his name. There was 4 quarterbacks that year taken that were absolutely awful.
Manuel, or what's his name?
Blaine Gabbert was in that draft.
Ponder? There was the Ponder draft.
Christian Ponder. That was an awful quarterback draft, and that's kind of what we're getting a vibe of this year. Although I think Malik Willis is going to be potentially good. I don't know much about the kid from Pittsburgh. There's a few, but some of these other kids are going to get overdrafted because teams are going to panic. They're going to go, oh, shit, I don't have one, and they're going to take one. Ultimately, I think you're going to see 3 or 4 taken in the first round, which are not going to be good fantasy quarterbacks for Dynasty. So just keep that in mind as our rookie draft approaches.
Yeah, I got my 2 young. I have 3 young quarterbacks in my Dynasty. I'm hoping to stay away from these ones in this draft.
As he stares on the barrel and goes, it don't look too bad, I guess.
Nah, got my boy Matt Jones in there, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love. I'll roll with them.
Okay, and what's the thought behind the Jags franchising Cam Robinson? Is the running game going to get any better from doing this? This was a weird move. I thought they were going to go with a left tackle first overall. It doesn't appear like that's going to happen anymore.
Well, who knows with Doug Peterson as the head coach? His running back rooms were goddamn circus, Adam Gase style, just rotating guys. So we thought ETN and Robinson was going to be a mess last year. I can't imagine what it's going to look like this year.
It's somehow it's somehow going to get worse. I didn't
like that.
Yeah, I didn't think that would get worse. I thought we'd finally have some clarity, and nope.
Yeah, no, that'll be an interesting situation down there in Jacksonville. Orlando Brown, I think, was a good move getting re-signed by the Chiefs. Ultimately, their running game, though,
he got the tag, right? He got franchise tag.
He did. Yep. Yeah. They needed to bring him back. Obviously, the Chiefs' running game it's not minimal. It is effective sometimes. It just kind of depends on the game plans. Devontae Adams was tagged too. That was obviously going to happen. They're going to work out a contract with him. They have to, or they're going to be the Saints in 2 years. Did you guys want to talk about that situation a little bit, his contract?
Sure.
I know JJ doesn't want to, but Ryan, will you?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
What the fuck?
I thought we were gonna lead me up to it.
Sure, I'll talk about it when I feel like
Who we talking about again?
Devontae Adams getting franchise tagged.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like that made sense. The only way that, and a part of me thinks that that's probably a condition to get Aaron Rodgers to re-sign. Devontae Adams had to stay. I don't see how there was any way they were going to be able to sign Aaron Rodgers and also sign a new contract with Devontae Adams. So I think franchise tagging was the only option.
Yeah, I agree with that too. There's no way in hell he would have come back if they weren't bringing him back. And I think they ultimately will work a contract out with him. Me and Ron in an earlier episode a few weeks ago did a way too fucking early top 12 players. And I did have Devontae Adams in there. Now that we see that the quarterback wide receiver connection is still established here, where do you guys rank Devontae Adams among wide receivers right now?
top 5.
Top
Maybe
five. I don't think it changes much.
Okay.
Do we think Aaron Rodgers actually plays all 4 seasons?
No, I don't. I don't think he'll end up playing all 4 seasons. I don't even know if he'll finish it out with the Packers. He's just such an asshole lately.
Lately, Joe? Lately?
Well, from what I'm noticing, I've been in the image of an asshole for the last 20 years, Tom Brady. So the starlight wasn't on Aaron Rodgers. Now I'm starting to see it. It's glimmering behind me, see?
Well, I think it was Charles Barkley who said Aaron Rodgers is that pretty girl that needs to be told she's pretty every day.
Always has been. Always will be.
But, I mean, he's 30. He's 38, I think. So 4 years puts him up to 42. Who knows?
Yeah.
JJ might have another 10 years of Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, my God. That would be awful. All right. Let's talk about quarterbacks that JJ actually likes. There is just continuing reports on Mitch Trubisky going to the Giants. So, JJ, give it to us. It's happening, right?
I don't know where he's going to go. We just talked about how many teams need a quarterback, so he's going to get an opportunity somewhere. Obviously, the Giants makes the most sense. Bringing in Brian Daboll, he didn't run it, but he learned his offense last year, ran it successfully in the preseason. So I've always had a vote of confidence for him. Obviously, I've saw him do some good things. Some have some off games, but I think if you use his skill set correctly, which I think Brian Daboll could do, I think he can have success in the league and win games like he has historically. So
if he goes to the Giants, how soon before he takes over the job?
Instantly. He'll beat him in training camp.
Yeah, they'll decline the option on Daniel Jones' 5th-year option, and if he's going to get the money that they're talking about, I don't even know that they'll declare it a competition. They may just name him the starter.
I think they'll declare. I think they'll make it a competition.
Yeah, I've seen like a Teddy Bridgewater contract, like with the what he got with the Panthers, which was I think it was like just shy of 20.
Then again, JJ, you've got a good point there. If they're so desperate to bring in Mitch Trubisky because so many teams need a quarterback, they'd be like, "Listen, we'll make you the starter. We won't even declare Daniel Jones as
give him the Andy Dalton treatment. You're the starter.
Yeah, you're the starter right now. We've seen enough of Daniel Jones." What can his fantasy relevance be, specifically in Superflex leagues? Do you guys see him as relevant? Someone you can play at your quarterback too, even on that shitty Giants team?
Yeah, I mean, I have him in our dynasty league, so he can run, man. He's a great athlete. So he's had success running in the past. We saw. I know it's going to be a different offense with the new coach, but the Giants ran Daniel Jones a decent amount last year, so Trubisky could definitely do that. And say what you will about the Giants, they have weapons. Another piece of news from today was they just restructured Sterling Shepard's contract, so he's going to stick around. So
what is he getting, a league minimum now?
I don't know. They got Tony, they got Shepard, Galladay, Barkley.
Got some weapons, just no offensive line at all.
They got 2 high draft picks, so
maybe they'll pick 2 offensive linemen. different GM, so maybe he'll do the right thing finally. Speaking of restructures too, Kenny Drake had his contract restructured, saving the Ravens $14.5 million. And a unfortunate favorite of mine, Taylor Huntley, re-signed with Baltimore, so he will not get to compete with Daniel Jones like Mitch Trubisky and take that job.
I told you he was going to stay. Lamar's his boy.
That sucks because I really think he could be something somewhere else, but nope, he's going to stay with his boy right there. I think he's a good long-term stash, especially on deep dynasty leagues, but he's obviously not something you can do in redraft leagues. If you have
Lamar, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Ron.
Just keep that in mind, Ron.
Ron in every league that you're in.
All right, I've ran through everything I've got for tonight, guys. Is there anything that you guys are hearing that you wanted to talk about, or any rumors out there for free agency that we should talk about with the heckling fandom?
Well, I heard Kyler Murray reactivated all of his posts regarding the Cardinals, so that made the news. That's a big deal.
It's funny. I heard absolutely nothing about that today with all the shit that's going on around the league.
It's because it's stupid. Do you imagine if there was Could you imagine if there was MySpace and he like took the Cardinals off his top 8 or something?
Heartbreak.
See that on the news. Kyler Murray removes the Cardinals from his top 8.
Yeah, well, he may again if they don't re-sign Christian Kirk.
There is something very important that I wanted to tell Joe, and that's that the Yankees suck and baseball is back.
Yeah, well, what he's alluding to here is he put up a post that baseball is back. There was a photo of a Boston player on the back screen. All I wrote under it was 27, and he knows what 27 is. That's all I need to say.
Joe, since you've started watching baseball, the Yankees have probably won one World Series. I've gotten, 4?
Well, I've been watching baseball since I was 4 or 5, so
we're
at least in the ballpark.
In Joe's defense, that's 27 more than the Jets have, so he has to.
That's actually not
26.
26 more. The Joe Montana. Right. Joe Montana. I just said Montana.
Joe Namath. You got the wrong Joe to begin with. It's Joe Namath.
I know. And I said Montana.
Hilarious.
I'm rusty.
I forgot about the Super Bowl they won in 1865.
I can show you I can show you the guy that prevented us from getting Seymour. It's this guy right here, Mark Sanchez.
Oh, come on. He's a great quarterback.
He was for 2 years.
The master of the butt fumble himself.
At least competent. Such a mess. All right, I don't think we got anything else for the heckling fandom tonight, do we? All right, guys.
Free agency.
Yeah. Oh my God, we're so close.
6 days.
Yeah.
No, 4 days. 4 days. So legal tampering.
Yeah, legal tampering, because I'm sure there's not contracts worked out already or anything that'll be announced within the first 2 minutes of free agency.
Just don't gamble.
Yeah, that's right. Don't spend $1,500 and lose $11 million on top of it. It's just a bad idea all around. So, guys, if you like what you hear on Garbage Time Fantasy Football, like and subscribe to the channel right here and to these episodes so we can keep bringing them to you. You can see us at www.garbagetimeff.com, where there's many different avenues you can listen to us. You can also listen to Ryan's MMA show if they ever do another damn episode on there. You can leave comments on Instagram at Garbage Time Fantasy Football. You can also leave it on Twitter at garbage_time_FF. And hit us up anywhere else you freaking hear us. Also leave reviews on Spotify and Apple now that Spotify actually allows reviews. And guys, like we already said, free agency is right around the corner. I hope you get everyone your team wants, except unless, if the Jets are looking at them. With that, good night, guys.